Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Etosha. I work with an organization called Waste Warriors, and it is an immense pleasure and honor for me and my entire team of Waste Warriors to get this opportunity to be a part of this really great webinar series held by the Indian Mountaineering Foundation. So just to give you a brief about Waste Warriors to start with. So this journey started with in 2009 by Jodie Underhill, a British lady who came as a traveler to our country. And then she was really disturbed with a huge garbage problem that she witnessed in our beautiful Himalayan region. And then she started organizing cleanup drives, gathering volunteers, and then co-founded Waste Warriors in 2012. So since then, our organization has focused on various aspects of waste management in 3 locations right now: Dharamshala, Dehradun, and Corbett. Dehradun being our head office right now. So I'll keep my focus mostly in our work in Dharamshala. So our Dharamshala project has been funded by the H.T. Parekh Foundation, an initiative of the HDFC. Since 2017, they have been funding our project. And overall, our organization has been focusing on several aspects in terms of waste management, including collection, processing of waste, a lot of collaboration with government and local bodies, a lot of awareness raising campaigns with local communities, and also education in schools. As a data, we have collected, more than 200 tons of waste from locals, tourists, and businesses every year. That's a lot of waste. So this is a bird's eye view of Dharamshala where we work. Dharamshala is located right at the foothills of the beautiful Dhauladhar range of the Himalayas in Himachal Pradesh, India. So our focus for today's webinar will be the story of the Triund Trail, a very popular trekking destination that is there in Dharamshala. So before 2010, when trekking had not become such a popular thing yet, travelers used to come mainly to hike the Indrahar Pass that connects the Kangra Valley on this side and to the Chamba Valley on the other side. Now, Triund was not a standalone destination, but was then just a halt before crossing the pass. So not surprisingly, there was hardly any garbage at that point of time because the footfall was limited, and trekking then meant more of an exploration and be with nature, unlike what happened later when it was immensely commercialized. So these are a few pictures of the trail leading to the Triund. It is a beautiful trail through the rhododendron forest and with a continuous view of the entire Kangra Valley. This is the top of the Triund, where the major camping happens now. It is a magnificent camping ground with an outstanding view of the entire Kangra Valley on one side and the snow-capped Dhauladhar mountain ranges on the other. This is on the way to the Indrahar Pass. This part is called the snow line, which comes after the Triund campsite, around 45 minutes from the campsite. This trail ahead leads to the Lahesh Caves, the next camping site, and then climb for the pass. So you can see how outstanding the place is. This is just at the offset of winter with no tourists, and there has been hardly any garbage here till then. But then since 2010, there was this sudden rise in the number of people trekking on this trail, which had very severe consequences. And most importantly, building up of a lot of garbage that came along with the tourists. So one of the reasons, major reasons, Triund was marketed as a standalone camping destination by the travel agents. Then also it was because it was very easily accessible for people reaching from Dharamshala and was promoted a lot as a weekend hiking destination to the travelers, especially to the tourists coming in from the nearby states. So fixed camps and a lot of cafes came up on the top and also along the trail, and they started to operate, but without a proper infrastructure provided. So this eventually led to a monumental increase in the garbage situation there. So a place that looks like this in the off season looks like this in the peak season. So this photo is from 2018 in the month of April, which is one of the peak seasons of Triund. So you can see an uncontrolled footfall and an overload of camping. So this obviously resulted in devastated garbage situation in the camping site. In 2012, Jodie takes up things in her own hands and started cleaning this trail. Triund was the place where the story of Waste Warriors began. So we started intervening in this trail, taking a lot of measures to spread awareness and reduce the garbage situation there. One of them was conducting weekly cleanups. So we started organizing cleanup drives from every Monday, and our volunteers, waste warriors, and along with their volunteers would go to the top of the Triund to clean the campsite and the trail. And this has been happening since 2012. But then again, because of the lack of infrastructure for the disposal of waste and no toilets being available at the campsite, there was an excessive use of mineral water bottles, which people just tend to leave behind at the campsite and not bring them back, which created a huge problem there. This is the havoc that got created there during the peak season, and with every passing day, it was exponential, and with the increase in the number of visitors with time, the condition was just getting worse and worse every day. So sometimes even the garbage from the campsite used to be so huge that it was not possible for any of us or any of our volunteers to bring them back manually in our shoulders. So especially with the huge number of glass bottles, the sacks used to become so heavy that it was absolutely impossible to carry them back. So we started hiring mules, and we would bring down all the garbage bi-weekly from the campsite from the trail. So we also worked on spreading a lot of awareness by installing visual content, because that can play a very important, impactful role in the minds of the travelers. So we installed interactive signboards on the trails throughout, and with messages of anti-littering and keeping the place clean. Then along with that, we also put up murals and art structures in Bhaksu and Dharamkot region, just to spread awareness through art to the local and the tourists visiting there. In the year 2018 and 19, we also started working with the shopkeepers along the trail. So by 2018, there were around 27 shops that had mushroomed on the trail, just on the trail. And there were a lot more on the top of the Triund campsite. So we conducted workshops with the shopkeepers to make them understand the importance of keeping the trail clean, and also tried to empower them by being vocal to the tourists visiting the place. We distributed Waste Warriors reusable bags to help them out, and then on a regular basis, in which they used to store all the dry waste, were brought down by the mules we hired on a bi-weekly basis. We also set up this drop-off point, which you can see out here at the very beginning of the trail at the Galu checkpoint. This is a segregation point with 10 types of waste going in different dustbins. This facility has been provided for anyone going up the trekking trail to encourage to bring all the garbage back, whatever they're taking along with them. So this drop-off point has been maintained by our green worker, who brings down all the garbage further down for further segregation of the waste. Just in the year 2018, we collected a whooping 8,500 kgs of waste only from the Galu drop-off point. That's a lot of waste. We tried to spread awareness among the tourists visiting the place. We tried to engage them as volunteers for cleanup drives. I would like to take this opportunity and thank all our volunteers who have been the biggest support for us in this initiative. They actually made this cleaning expedition possible and impactful for us every week when we are conducting that. But the garbage situation was just getting worse with time, and there was no regulation from the government or the forest department on this overflow. And as you can see, this continued to happen every week for years together, and starting from 2012. But then we continuously approached the forest department to work on some regulations, which finally got implemented in July 2018. Police checkpost was set up at the entrance of the trail to regulate the entry of the trekkers. They also capped the count of the tourists, which was 500 tourists per day, and also started confiscating alcohol bottles. The reason, because the broken glass was becoming a huge nuisance at the top and also the trail. So they also banned all the alternate trails leading to Triund to reduce littering on those trails, because it was difficult to monitor so many trails leading to one place. But even after all these regulations, the garbage kept on piling and our cleanups just never stopped. So you can see this is a picture of the Triund start point on a New Year's Eve of 2018. It's just overflowing with people. But without being able to find a solution to all this, finally the camping had just to be banned. And so in 2019, that is last year, July 3rd specifically, the notice came out from the Forest Department and the state government to completely ban the place for overnight camping. As per the state government's order, only day hike was allowed to the top, and staying overnight was no longer allowed at the Triund. So just to let the area stay ecologically balanced. So now the hikers to the Triund can only opt for a day trek and return on the same day. So the ban eventually even led to the closure of all the shops, eateries on the way, which actually created a huge impact on the local economy who were dependent on the place totally. So what were the reasons? We really need to do an assessment on all the stakeholders who are directly or indirectly involved as to why this had to happen. So if we could have just stopped it. So one of the major reasons was played definitely by the travel operators. So before selling a package, there was no guidance given to the trekkers on anti-littering or making the travel eco-friendly. There was no initiative taken by the travel operators to provide a garbage bag or any information on how to bring back the waste at least. But again, another major reason was Triund was marketed so much by the travel agents that the entire crowd visiting Dharamshala got concentrated at one place instead of getting diverted to different trails, in which I can say that Dharamshala has a lot of trails to explore. But this created this humongous burden on the ecology of the place, which became uncontrollable and unmanageable, eventually just crushing it down. The guides were not given adequate training. They were not provided with the information on keeping the place clean and were not even empowered to be vocal to their clients about not littering, which was really, really important thing to be done. The forest department definitely has to play a huge role out here. Even though the forest department came up with regulations at the checkpost, there was no monitoring on the trail or the campsite. Maybe the department could have come up with alternate solutions and worked on the IEC part more than banning the trail completely. I personally believe banning is not a solution, but I presume they really didn't have an option rather than just banning it up. The major role is definitely played by the visitors of the place, that is the trekkers. The complete lack of empathy of tourists towards the environment or regulations is something we all travelers need to really work upon. It is very important for all travelers to understand the vulnerability of the ecosystem, especially the Himalayas. These places are a source of livelihood for millions, and it is immensely important for travelers to believe in the notion of leaving no footprint and keep the place the way it was before you came here. The picture that you see out here have been, or you have been seeing in the presentation previously, are absolutely unacceptable. This is absolutely not done from the travelers. I finally would like to consider waste warriors as one of the stakeholders as well, even though we have been cleaning the trail for the past 10 years now, tried to raise a lot of awareness amongst the local communities and tourists, but maybe it was just not enough. We need to come up with different approaches and strategies. Overall, we definitely need to do a lot more to make a significant impact on places such as these, and we are definitely working towards it, and hopefully things will look better in the coming days. So after assessing the problems that led to this banning, there are certain measures that we can definitely take to avoid such a situation in any other part of the Himalayas in future. This entire story of Triund is not an isolated sad story in the Himalayas right now. You can see some of the regulations that we can definitely take over. So there are so many trails across the Himalayas that are so overpopulated, and the lack of that conscious effort by the travelers to keep the sanctity has led to a ban on the trail. But banning is not a solution because it affects the economy of the place, which are completely tourist dependent. So as a mountaineer or a hiker or as a traveler, it should be our responsibility to keep the beauty of the trails intact and leave nothing but footprints. So these are definitely a few points to be taken care of, not only in Triund, but in any part of the Himalayas. So every stakeholder should take the responsibility to make sure that at least these minimum measures are taken seriously. So with this appeal to all who love exploring the mountains, especially the Himalayas, I would like to send a message across through this wonderful platform of Indian Mountaineering Foundation to be responsible and take a little care towards the ecosystem of the place we are traveling to. all of us together can definitely stop other trails from having the same fate as Triund. Thank you.